Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Hello Girl DIY. Today I'm going to be doing a DIY Dollar Tree leather shelf, which I think you're all going to love. So to start out, I'm going to be using this pine board. You could use one of Dollar Tree's like scrap boards that they're selling now, or really anything. You can also use one of Dollar Tree's shelves. But I'm just taking this scrap piece of pine. I'm going to be staining it with some of that, I think it's called provincial stain, and after I removed all of the staples and gave my board a quick sanding, I'm going to go ahead and stain it with some of that stain. And you want to make sure you get both sides of the board because you will see both when it's hanging up on the wall. So once my board was all stained and had a chance to dry, it was time to work on the leather straps. And I started out by taking my leather out of the packaging. This is some of Dollar Tree's brown faux leather. And I started by taking out the packaging and then making strips. I think were about 1¼ inches wide. But don't do that. Don't use the scissors because, well, for one, Dollar Tree's leather is really thin, and two, when you are cutting with scissors, you pretty much can't help making a couple of mistakes or jagged edges. So what I ended up doing was using a rotary cutter on a mat, and that was so much better. My lines were nice and smooth, they were pretty much perfect, which will really affect how your straps look in the end. So for these strips, all I did was take my leather and fold it in half lengthwise so that you're cutting it in double thickness. And then these strips I cut 2 inches wide because I was intending to fold these in half. So you want them to be double the width that you want them to be in the end. And then all you have to do is cut 3 of those strips and then cut one of them in half. So you're left with those 4 strips to make your straps out of. And I think the longer ones were about 11 and the smaller ones were about 8, but really it all depends on what leather you're using. You don't have to use Dollar Tree leather. You can also buy the spools of leather, or you could even recycle an old belt. And you see me here using fabric glue. Do not use fabric glue. It ended up turning out alright after I added in some hot glue, but fabric glue, 1, it does not dry, and 2, it does not stick. So I went ahead and pulled apart some places, or some places were not sticking together, and I just used hot glue. So when you're doing your hot glue, just make sure you're going in a little bit, because when you shut it with your fingers, it'll ooze out to the edges. So just make sure that it's nice and closed. And these are my straps when they are all done. Okay, so what I've got right here is I have the board on the back side, the side that would be in the bottom of my shelf, and I have the 2 long pieces right here. And I have the long pieces coming to the edge. This will actually be the front edge, I believe, of my shelf once it's flipped over. So this is lining up right there, or about right there on that line on both, and that's just taped down with some Scotch tape because you can staple right through that. And then these shorter pieces right here, let me see, these are probably about half an inch overlap, and then those are taped down as well. And then we'll just staple the overlap here and here, and then maybe also some of this to make sure it just stays nice and secure. And then I actually decided to use these little brass or gold nails I had on here. I thought they would look cuter, and this is what it looks like once I've nailed them. I just did 2 on either side and try to space them out as evenly as possible. And then I'm just going to go ahead, and a couple places were opening up on my leather, like I said before, just because I had used fabric glue. So I went ahead and filled those up with some hot glue just to make sure that they were nice and shut tight. Okay, so right now I have like a variety of marks on my wall, but I used this stud finder to find where my studs were. So right here is where I have studs, so I put 2 little dots here, and then I just there's a stud right there. So I put those dots. Okay, so these are where my studs are. So now that I know where my studs are, it was time to go ahead and put up my shelf. And to do that, I'm just gonna take my shelf. It's in its bare processes right now. And I kind of put it roughly like where I wanted it. This is kind of a 2-person job. So my mom kind of held it as I decided where I wanted it. And I decided that I wanted it to be right about, let's see, here. So you see I got those 2 marks. So my board, I put my shelf up there. I used a level to make it nice and level, make sure it's level, and then I made a couple of marks right here on my wall, or basically on top of my board. And then once I did that, the next step was, since the left side of my board is going to be in a stud, and I decided that I wanted my other side to be secure. So basically like right here. And I didn't know, there's not a stud right there. The stud's right over here. But again, I still wanted it to be nice and secure. So I'm going to be using a drywall anchor into my wall just to make it more secure, like as if there were a stud there. Just because that way I feel secure, putting heavier items on this shelf. Oh, I forgot a pencil. Shoot. There we go. Here's what I'm using. Stud finder.
Turning me on.
Alright, so to do this, the first thing you do is you're going to take your drywall anchor and a screwdriver, and you want one that fits pretty good into the top or the Phillips head of your drywall anchor, just so it doesn't move around too much. Then you're going to put it where you want it, and you're just going to press the tip in to your drywall. So that's kind of got the tip part is embedded. And then I'm going to use a hammer to hammer your drywall anchor in until the drywall is flush with the first thread. So essentially what I did to find out where to place my other anchor was I put the straps where I wanted them, and then I just took a tape measure and measured from the middle of this strap to the middle of this strap. And then I took onto my wall and I stuck this little thing into the anchor, kind of like that. And then I measured, whoops, it won't stay there now. Anyways, I just measured, 14 and a half from 14 actually and 5/8. So it was 14 5/8 from here over, which made that little mark. And then I took my level and I drew it down so that it was level with this, because I know it's how wide it should be, but I need to make sure it's level. So right there. That's where I'm gonna put my next anchor. All right, so now it's all up. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. There still are a couple of things to do. One thing I would suggest if you're doing this is to, or however making a shelf, is to, instead of using nails, to actually sew them, or maybe even like glue them together, because that way you can just screw in the straps and then just stick the board in and make it level, which would be so much easier. But I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna trim these down. Okay, so in order to put this up, all we did was I held it in place while my brother put them where I wanted, because I already made the mark and put the anchor in. So all I had to do was hold it up, fold the top over, and then screw it in. And then to make sure that it was perpendicular to the wall, we used one of these, held up against the wall, made sure it was straight. So again, using this speed square, made sure that it was nice and perpendicular and flush to the wall. And then once we had one up, to make sure that the next one was level, we just used our level and made sure that it was all nice and straight. Then we screwed in the other one and I touched it up with some gold metallic paint. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. And this is how it looks when it's all done. I love it so much, especially when I put on some of my Dollar Tree artwork and that cute little ceramic pot from Dollar Tree, and then that little vase I DIY, which is awesome Dollar Tree. So I think it's so cute and so pretty hanging up in my wall. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to click that subscribe button because it really helps me out here on YouTube. And I'll hit you in the next one. Bye!